Så. Velkommen til, siger vi bare. Så må vi se, om vi kan hitte ud af det her Planet Zoo. Men lad os komme i gang med at få oprettet en profil. Sorry. Velkommen til Planet Zoo. Tak fordi du sluttede dig til os. Nu er det kun få skridt tilbage, før du kan opleve Planet Zoo-verdenen. Først skal vi oprette din avatar, så du kan repræsentere dine fantastiske kreationer i Planet Zoo-fællesskabet. Husk at skabe en avatar, som dine venner kan genkende. Kan du dyre? Fuld. Nå, hvordan ser vi ud? Vi er voksne, tror jeg. Relativt hvid. Ja, det betyder jo nok ikke så meget. Ja, det er nok også fint. Så, se, hvad har vi så? Så har vi hattet det. Ja. Ja, det kunne næsten godt ligne. Passer det ikke meget godt, det tror jeg. Godkendt. Lad os se, om vi kan hitte ud af det. Hvor er vi henne af? Vi er i... Hvordan gør man det her? Sådan der. Og så er vi lige her. Er du sikker? Yes. Scenarier. Kast dig ud i en karriere, hvor du skal administrere Klar til at starte din egen franchise. Skal vi ikke bare lige starte med at se, hvordan vi spiller det her? Overklasses hjemmeskole. Ja, nice løb. Er det det eneste, der er? Goodwills Palæ er blevet renoveret og omdøbt efter at være købt af en eller anden i 80'erne. Og for nylig gennemgået en ny renovering. Og habitaler, faciliteter og bla bla bla. Jamen lad os se.
Heyo at Hematu. Yeah.
Og det kan I ikke se.
Oh, sorry about that. I have a habit of slipping back into the Planko language. It's good to finally meet you in person. I'm Bernard, although I insist you call me Bernie. The only person who calls me Bernard is my wife. And even then, only when I've tracked elephant dung into the carpets.
Det er sgu meget nice, de har fået oversat det hele.
As you know, I own several zoos, but I always like to show people the ropes here at my home. This is the first zoo I ever opened, and a source of great pride for me. And prize, thanks to a lion breeding program we ran in the 80s. But we're in the middle of a big renovation, and that's where you come in. Sadly, our old contractor had to retire after developing a fur allergy. Poor devil kept sneezing his dentures into the lion habitat. So, it's up to you to finish everything off. Don't worry, though. I'm not completely throwing you in at the deep end. My head keeper, Nancy Jones, will be lending a helping hand. Oh, she's a hard worker, and she'll expect you to be too. But I'm sure you'll get along like a house on fire, or even better, one that isn't on fire. Less shouting that way.
Hello there. From that rosy, fresh face of yours, I'm guessing you're Bernie's new hire. Good. Now, I hope you're ready to ditch your diploma because we're about to get really hands-on. But before we begin the real work, how about we familiarize you with the zoo by learning how to fly around it and visiting some of our beautiful animals? We'll start by popping over and having a look-see at the grizzly bears in their habitat.
Til grizzlybørnene, det må være her. Hov. Men der kommer ned her.
Hello there. From that rosy, fresh face of yours, I'm guessing you're Bernie's new hire. Good. Now, I hope you're ready to ditch your diploma because we're about to get really hands-on. But before we begin the real work, how about we familiarize you with the zoo by learning how to fly around it and visiting some of our beautiful animals? We'll start by popping over and having a look-see at the grizzly bears in their habitat.
Det er hernede. En grizzly.
Did you know that grizzly bears, also known as Ursus arctos horribilis, can hibernate for up to 7 months a year? Oh, but then again, given the chance, I think a lot of people would do that too.
Ja, det vil da ikke gøre noget.
Select one of the bears and you'll bring up its information panel. This is where you can find out all kinds of information about your animal. The most important thing being its overall welfare. You'll learn more about animal welfare today as we go through your objectives. But for now, let's enjoy this magnificent animal. Why don't you select the camera at the bottom of its information panel? See now, this is a fantastic way to get a close look at your animals. You can also get this view of an animal by simply double-clicking on it.
Det er sgu godt lavet.
Okay, when you're ready, let's pop over to the other side of the zoo and take a look at the lions. I've marked their location for you to find.
Hvor skulle vi hen, sagde hun? Derovre.
Panthera leo leo, or the West African lion to you and me. Lions are the most social of the big cats, and there can be as many as 40 lions in a pride, although prides of that size are pretty rare. As Bernie would say, those lions are awesome, which is precisely why I handle the training instead these days. Anyway, how about we get started on those objectives? Come on, let's head over to our warthog habitat and see what needs doing there.
Det var herovre.
As you can see, it's a lovely space for warthogs, but it's missing a certain something. Well, two somethings. The warthogs. So I'd like you to adopt a pair of them. To adopt animals, we need to open the animal market, which is in the animal trading section.
Dyrehandel.
There we are, a pair of perfectly splendid warthogs for our zoo. Just click on them and select Buy from the side menu. Normally the animal exchange would be full of animals, but I've emptied out the market while you learn how it works. The last thing I need is you accidentally ordering a dozen elephants. When you adopt an animal, it's automatically placed in the trade centre where they're held until you're ready to move them into their habitat, which, as it happens, you are. So how about you move them into their new home?
Den der hund der, han kommer på nerverne. Hvad skulle vi nu? Send to zoo. Et styk. Send to zoo.
When you ask for an animal to be moved into a habitat, your caretakers will go to the trade centre, collect your animal, and deliver them to your selected habitat. I've marked the trade centre's location, so let's go and watch the caretakers in action.
Hvor er det henne? Der.
Well, as you can see, those caretakers don't hang about. They'll move those animals to their destination as fast as possible. Of course, normally we'd have to place the animals into quarantine before moving them into a habitat, but I am assured by a person of good standing that these warthogs are in the very rudest of health. Right, let's get the warthog's habitat finished up so we can keep them nice and happy. You see, each animal in the zoo has an overall welfare statistic, basically how happy they are. And that overall welfare statistic is itself comprised of 4 different areas: nutrition, social health, habitat, and enrichment. Luckily, if you select an animal, you'll bring up their animal welfare information panel, which we saw earlier, where you can see how they're doing. That way, you'll know exactly what areas need to be addressed. Don't worry if that's a lot to remember. You can always check the Zoopedia for more information. Let's start by making sure we're taking care of the warthog's nutrition welfare. To do this, we'll need to place a food station and a drinking station. Now, each animal requires a different type of feeding station. And for the warthogs, it's a small feeding trough. So let's add one of those and a water bowl.
Er der sådan en mere? Hvor er det svin? Yes. Og hvad skulle de mere have, sagde hun? Og en vandskål.
Animals also require stimulation to keep them happy. Let's add a lovely mud bath for the warthogs to roll around in. That bath will count towards their enrichment welfare, specifically their toy enrichment welfare. Oh, nice work. You've got a knack for this, I see. Now, our contractor had to leave in a hurry, so this place is in a feral state. Unfinished thingamajigs and whatsits all over the shop. But the first thing we need to finish is the ostrich habitat. It's over near the hippos.
Den vej.
Okay, job number 1 here is to add a habitat gate before we complete the barrier. Every habitat needs a habitat gate. After all, how else would the keepers get in and out? Just make sure it's hooked up to the path so the keepers can reach it.
Ah. Kunne det så være bedre, hvis den var derinde? Kunne det ikke det? Nå. Uden for placeringsområdet. Så skal den altså være der.
Right.
Okay.
Let's complete the perimeter barrier so we can adopt us some ostriches. I've marked out an area for you to use, so I'd like you to finish off the perimeter using the brick barrier.
Nu kan vi ikke se noget. Kan den ikke være lige den her?
Good work. Remember, before you can place animals in any habitat, it has to have a full loop of connected barrier. Now, you've probably noticed that guests can't actually see into this habitat at the moment. At least not without a stepladder. But seeing as they're banned, I'd like you to select a piece of barrier and swap out the brick for a glass barrier, so the guests can see in. There we go. Adding in more windows gives guests even more opportunities to see the animals in a habitat. It's always best to make sure the guests can get a good view into a habitat from the path they're walking on, because it makes them happy, and because this would be a pretty terrible zoo if they couldn't. The last thing we need to do is to add a donation box. You see, when guests enjoy the view of an animal, they'll make a donation. Just make sure you put them in easy-to-reach places, like near a viewing point. Donation boxes are one of the main sources of income for the zoo, so make sure you remember them. All right, you've finished the habitat, so it's high time we adopted those ostriches, don't you think? Let's get 4 of them in here.
4. Han var godt nok dyr, ham der. Hende der.
While we wait for them to be collected by the caretakers and brought to the habitat, you should get it ready for them. Add a suitable feeding station, water station, and an appropriate food enrichment item. It's often best to place things like enrichments and feeding stations near to the habitat perimeter, so guests can get a really good view of the animals.
Og hvad er det her? Det er langsom fodautomat. Ah.
Oh, good to see the ostriches have somewhere they can really stretch their legs. Did you know they can actually run at 43 miles per hour? Oh, heaven forbid they ever escape. The speed camera fines alone would bankrupt us.
Hvorfor fik jeg kun bronze?
Well, Bernie certainly seems impressed. Did he do a speed camera joke? Every time we get an ostrich. So, now we've made the ostriches' lives a bit better, let's do the same for the keepers, shall we? To make it easier for the keepers to feed the ostriches and hippos, we should build a new keeper hut. Keeper huts are where the keepers prepare the food for animals, so they should be placed near to the habitats to make sure the keepers don't waste their time walking when they should be looking after the animals.
Lille dyr passer hytte.
You'll need to rotate the keeper hut to get it to connect up to the path.
Og hvordan gør vi det? Ikke sådan. Det skal stå der. Hvordan roterer vi? Roter. Det er kameraet. Z plus. Ja. Det var det da ikke. Hvorfor er det en ugyldig rotation? Sådan.
This keeper hut only has space for one keeper, but the larger keeper hut can allow multiple keepers to prepare food at the same time. Oh, but bear in mind that keeper huts and other staff facilities shouldn't be placed near to areas where there are lots of guests. Guests don't like seeing facility buildings, and it can affect their happiness negatively. In case that wasn't clear.
Så kan de kigge den anden
Something
vej.
that all facilities, shops, and a whole host of other objects need is power. And that obviously includes your newly built keeper hut. So let's place a transformer next to it, shall we?
Bænke og sikkerhed, transportmidler, højtaler, forsyninger. Sådan
Now,
en
the
dims.
reason everything has gone blue is because you're using the power heat map. This map allows you to see what is and what isn't powered in your zoo. So, once you've placed your transformer, you can click in the bottom left to turn the heat map off. Lovely work. Now the keepers can start
Sådan.
using the hut to prepare food, and thanks to where you put it, they won't need to walk very far to deliver it to the ostriches and hippos. Let's get on to your next objective then. Bengal tigers.
Tigerne!
We want to adopt some, but I'm afraid there's nothing ready for them yet. Head on over to the plot of land I've marked out. It's not too far away.
Wow, right then. Hvor skal vi hen af? Der.
Righty, your next job is to build a habitat. From scratch. And wood and concrete, I expect. So go ahead and build it. And don't forget the habitat gate. It's always best to place the habitat gate close to the keeper hut. As it happens, there's one quite near to the trade center.
Er det der, eller hvad?
Oh, and make sure the guests will be able to see the tigers.
Det må det være. Sæt den der. Og den der. Og den der. Og ja, det kræver i hvert fald noget tilvænning. Det bliver i hvert fald ikke specielt godt. Hvordan går vi tilbage her? Sådan. Men okay, vi skal jo lære det. Nu har jeg ikke spillet så frygtelig meget.
Now, Bernie takes safety very seriously at his zoos, so we should probably make sure those tigers can't jump out of their habitat, don't you think? The way we'll do it is by changing the height of the habitat's barrier. Okay then, you should start by double-clicking the habitat barrier, which will take you into barrier editing mode. Great. Now highlight the entire perimeter of the habitat. You can do that by clicking and dragging the barrier selection tool. Now you've got all of the perimeter selected, you can increase the height of it by clicking and dragging the barrier height tool upwards. You'll want to make sure it reaches a minimum height of 4 meters.
How the dims do we do that? Ah, hold up. Det var da irriterende med den der. Åh, stop. Ej! Er det måden at gøre det på? Det tænker jeg ikke, det er. Men okay, hvis det virker. Then I really don't care. Der må være en smartere måde at gøre det her på. Sådan der. Op til 4 meter. Cool. sådan. Blokeret? Hvorfor det? Det er løgn. Ej, så gjorde den det ikke. Så gør vi det bare lige igen. Så der er simpelthen også noget sikkerhed i det også. Så det er jo cool nok, at de har inkluderet det. Men for dimsen. Sådan. Og så skal den raises til 4 meter. Kan det ikke være fint? Kunne det måske ikke. Okay, det kan jo næsten være helt fort jo. Hvad er problemet? Jeg kunne bygge alt det andet der. Hvordan... envejsglas og alt muligt andet. Hvis han så bare have den til at godkende. Hvorfor er den blokeret? Kan de ikke bare godkende den?
Now, Bernie takes safety very seriously at his zoos, so we should probably make sure those tigers can't jump out of their habitat, don't you think? The way we'll do it is by changing the height of the habitat's barrier. Okay then, you should start by double-clicking the habitat barrier, which will take you into barrier editing mode. Great. Now highlight the entire perimeter of the habitat. You can do that by clicking and dragging the barrier selection tool. Now you've got all of the perimeter selected, you can increase the height of it by clicking and dragging the barrier height tool upwards. You'll want to make sure it reaches a minimum height of 4 meters.
Blokeret. Hvad er det, der er galt her? Sådan. Det er da gået helt galt, det her. Så. Ha. Oh my fucking god. Det er ikke nemt. Kan man ikke se let af det her igen? Så. Sådan der. Cool. Og så skulle den hæves til 4 meter. Thereabout. Sådan. How hard could that be? Siger jeg bare. Så skal vi lige have en... Sådan. Der kæft. Og det sætter vi også til glas. Så. Godt. Var der mere, vi skulle med hende her?
Now, Bernie takes safety very seriously at his zoos, so we should probably make sure those tigers can't jump out of their habitat, don't you think? The way we'll do it is by changing the height of the habitat's barrier. Okay then, you should start by double-clicking the habitat barrier, which will take you into barrier editing mode. Great. Now highlight the entire perimeter of the habitat. You can do that by clicking and dragging the barrier selection tool. Now you've got all of the perimeter selected, you can increase the height of it by clicking and dragging the barrier height tool upwards. You'll want to make sure it reaches a minimum height of 4 meters.
Mm. Og det har vi. Godt. Dyrmarkedet er tomt. Tilføj udgang og connect to a path. Indstil hegnet til cirka 4 meter. Det har jeg da. Hvad snakker hun om? Vil hun have det højere endnu? Det er der 4 meter. Den er lige her. Ja, hun er bare stiv. Hun kan da godt få det højere, hvis hun vil det. Oh. Ej, så forsvandt det hele her.
Okay, that's the habitat boundary complete, the habitat gate in place, and most importantly, the tigers won't be able to jump out of it anymore. I think it's time we adopted those tigers.
Så var vi i dyrehandleren, og så siger vi en tierdyr til mig. 2 tierdyr til mig. Et stykke.
Whilst our trusty caretakers collect and deliver the tigers, let's take a look at preparing the habitat for their arrival. We'll start with the basics.
Halløjsa!
Add a suitable feeding station for them.
Velkommen til. Hvad var det, vi skulle? Food tray. Der var en tierdyr.
This time, instead of adding a water bowl, let's try something different. Some animals need a pool in their habitat so they can go for a swim, but they can also use it to drink from. All you have to do is make sure the banks of the pool have a gentle slope so they can easily get a nice, refreshing drink. There's already a pool excavated, but you still need to fill it with water. You should do that by going into terrain and selecting the water tool.
Rolig vand og oprørt vand. Vi tager noget roligt, tror jeg.
Yes, that'll do nicely. Of course, just like the warthogs and ostriches, these tigers will also need some enrichment. Why don't you add some suitable toy and food enrichment items into their habitat?
Skal jeg lige se tierdyrene her. Haha! Det er satme godt lavet, vil jeg så sige. Det har de gjort godt. Skal den i vandet nu? Beautiful. Kom så, tierdyr. Take a swim. Oh yeah. Tierdyr i vandet. Og så prøv at se den pels der. Åh, kæft, hvor er det godt lavet, mand. Og så puster den også. Godt lavet, vil jeg sige. Nå, vi skulle have noget tøj. Og noget enrichment til dem.
Okay, it's really starting to take shape. Now, the tigers will need a shelter in their habitat, so they can hide from the guests, or more likely, the bad weather. Although, given that we're in England, you might want to think of that just as normal weather. Go on, add a shelter to their habitat. You can either build one from various suitable bits and bobs, or if you like, just pop down the blueprint that I've already built for you.
Vi tager bare en blueprint her. Skal vi lige se engang, hvor passer det bedst ind? Det kunne vi egentlig godt sætte derovre, kunne vi ikke det?
Oh, poor Dabs. I'm sure it can't have escaped your attention that the tigers look a bit miffed. That's because they aren't too keen on the type of terrain in their habitat. Select a tiger and bring up its information panel. Rightio, click on the terrain tab. That way you can view the terrain information and see how they feel about the different types of terrain. That'll tell you what the tigers need more of or less of in this habitat. Okay then, open the terrain editing tool, select painting, and give them some more soil. Yes, that should help with the habitat part of their welfare.
Jord. Hvordan gør vi det mindre, det her græs her?
Right then, all animals need plants and trees from their own biome or continent. You know, deserts, savannas, or Asia, Europe, that sort of thing. It looks like these tigers need a few more plants in their habitat. To get a perfect fit, use plants from the rainforest and temperate biomes that are native to Asia. Although if you have to, you can get away with using just one or the other. The tigers will also want a certain amount of their habitat to be covered by those plants. To find out which plants to use and how many, select a tiger and go to the Environment tab. Now, as you can see, some of the plants currently in the habitat aren't quite right for the tiger, like the wattle bushes. You can remove them if you want.
Ja, det er sgu meget
You
godt.
can find all of the plants you need in the nature section, and you can use the filters to only show the types of plants you want to see. In this case, that's plants from the rainforest or temperate biomes.
Sige, den der, hvordan slår man det? Der. Halløjsa! Hvordan har du fået access til betaen? Det er fordi, jeg har... Hvad det hedder, købt deluxe-pakken. Så får man access til det. Den var god nok, var den ikke? Asian... Den der kan vi ikke lide. Den der kan vi vist heller ikke lide. Og den der kan vi heller ikke lide. Asian, det er okay. Asian er også okay. Og den der. Banantræ. Ja. Noget brændesjov. Der er slet ikke nogen... Jo, der var en kokospalle. Nogle små nogle. Hvad siger vores stigerdyr? Den siger faktisk, at det er fuldstændig forkert, det jeg har lavet. Eller hvad? Nej. Ikke helt. Se engang havearbejde. Det er lige meget. Noget savanne måske. Hvor har vi det henne? Afrika. Kan den lide det? Det kunne den faktisk. Hvor meget skal de have, de her ting? Det går sgu da den forkerte vej. Hvor blev mit tierdyr af? Dammit, har ingen penge til det lige nu. Ej, det er så det værste ved det jo. Men man kan godt mærke, at man ikke har spillet Planet Coaster der. Den var den vist ikke så vild med. Det er 3 der. Skal vi ikke lige se den spise? Ah, så gik den væk. Ah. Men det er fandme godt lavet, det vil jeg sige. Skal jeg bare finde ud af alt det her, hvordan det fungerer alt det her. Så en gang, hvornår mener de, at det er nok? Kom med 10 dyr. Jeg tænker det i hvert fald, at det er forkert vej, jeg er gået. %9 dækning. Eller skal der mere? Nej, det skal der ikke. Det har jeg i hvert fald bestemt mig for. %8. De vil måske slet ikke have så meget. Eller hvad? %. Så det er vist den eneste måde at få fat på spillet her, eller på demoen, han har sagt. Betaen. Hvad siger 10 dyr så? 5%! Det var satans. Det var snart slet det hele igen, jo. Vil de slet ikke have noget af det? 10 dyr, kom her. 3%. %2. Den lå der i skot der i skyggen. Så det tror jeg da godt, de vil have. En eller anden ørkenbrændende. Det var ikke den. Det var den der. Mod skulle da snart være tilfreds nu og snart slettet det hele. Men se, nu blev den sur. Nu er vi på 0%. Ikke? Jo. Godt. Upassende plantetyper. Så vi skal have tropisk, tempereret og græsslette. Tropisk, tempereret og græsslette. Cool. Og vi skulle være i Asien. Kan vi så også sige et tierdyr? Nope. Så er spørgsmålet bare, hvor meget skal vi have af det forskellige? Hold da kæft, det er stort. Så vil jeg sætte sådan en herinde. Jeg tænker, de skal have lidt skygge herover, hvor de kan ligge og sove. Okay, det er... Hvor meget skal de have, de kræ der? Okay, så de skal faktisk have... De vil faktisk have rigtig meget. Ah, de skal sgu ikke have 3 derovre. Se dækningsgraden, hvad har vi her? Det er det der barboretræ der. Ah.
They say the good fences make good neighbors. I guess that's doubly true when one of the neighbors is a Bengal tiger. Still, those tigers look so happy that I doubt they'd leave, even if you did poke a hole in their fence. Oh, but for heaven's sake, don't test that theory.
Right, let's head over to the Indian peafowls. I've been told that we need to improve their social welfare. Now then, just find one of the peafowls and select them to open their information panel. Then we can have a good gander at how they're doing. Although technically, I suppose gandering would just be for geese. Expand their social welfare, and we can get a bit more detail. Now, they've clearly got plenty of space, and they're not stressed, but it looks like their social group isn't quite right. So let's find out more. Click on the social tab at the top of their information panel to see what's wrong. Right, as you can see, the peafowls need their population to be larger. To solve this little problem, you'll need to adopt 3 more female peafowls. Well, off you pop to the animal market.
Jamen, så prøver vi da at finde nogle påfugle.
Good work on those peafowls. I expect they'll be delivered soon. But sadly, it sounds like our snow leopard is a bit grumpy. Let's head over there and see what's wrong with her.
Det er den vej. Meow.
Just like people, animals can suffer from stress if things aren't quite right. You know, like when you see someone put in the milk before the tea bag. In the case of these snow leopards, they're a bit stressed by their lack of privacy. You can lower their stress levels by swapping out the normal glass barriers for one-way glass. It's not a cheap option, but I think they're worth the expense, don't you? This will give the snow leopards somewhere to go when they want to get away from the prying eyes of the guests.
Oh. Bud er lige flad i overkant. Flad i bunden.
Of course, when an animal isn't in its natural biome, it's probably going to be too hot or too cold. Unsurprisingly for the snow leopards, it's too hot. Even with the terrible British weather, you should help cool it down by adding some coolers to their habitat. But let's start by opening up the temperature heat map and having a look-see at the temperature in the leopard's habitat. Of course, when an animal isn't in its natural biome, it's probably going to be too hot or too cold. Unsurprisingly for the snow leopards, it's too hot. Even with the terrible British weather, you should help cool it down by adding some coolers to their habitat. But let's start by opening up the temperature heat map and having a look-see at the temperature in the leopard's habitat.
Heatmap, hvor pokker gør vi lige den? Bunden? Hvor finder vi noget heatmap hen? Ah!
As you can see, we already have one cooler in there. Let's pop some more down and get as much of the habitat as chilly as we can. Luckily for us, this habitat already has power, but you'll need to make sure of that in the future. Just so you know, if any part of a habitat is powered, then the whole habitat will be powered.
Okay. Vi giver den inde i sit hus der. Oh. Rækkevidde 18 og 18. Skal den have flere?
You can find heat maps for all sorts of helpful things, so do be sure to explore them and make good use of them. It'll take a little while for the temperature to adjust once you've added coolers or heaters, but now we've got the coolers in, we can address the leopards' terrain welfare. You see, what the leopards really want in here is snow and rock, so let's make that happen.
Rocks. Hvor blev dyret af? Der. Der er stadig ikke for meget græs. Okay.
All of that should give you a pretty good understanding of how to make animals happy. So I'd like you to go and check on all the other animals in the zoo and fix up any issues with their habitats. That'll increase the average welfare of the animals across the whole zoo. And that average welfare is a very important statistic. Now, to quickly see how all your animals are doing in the zoo, you should go into zoo management and then into the animals section. As you can see, this list shows you the animal's overall welfare. So, if something's amiss, then you can quickly pop over to them using the locate button. Right, I'm off for a cuppa while you make sure all the animals are well looked after.
Jo, tak skal du have. Hvad betyder det? Sulten. Og sulten. Kan man ikke bare... Jo, det kunne man. Se, de har dims der. Personale, dyrepasser. Giv dem noget mad. Det var vandskål. foder. Jeg havde måske en foderskål der, eller hvad? Nej. Og hvad havde vi så? Så var det... Lad os lige tage ulven her først. Se engang, hvad var der med ulvene her? Se engang, hvad var det for en af dem? Det var Will et eller andet. Hvor er den henne? Sådan der. Så har vi den her katteting her. Kattelemuren her. Lemuren bare. Hvor er den henne? Den er der. Sådan. Ja, det kan jeg også sige. Så er der en hippopotamus her, der er sulten. Foder tro. Indgangen til dem her, hvor de er henne. Her kommer måske med foder til den. Yes. Låst inde i lang tid. Du har lige fået mad. Er tæt på at dø. Men du kan sgu da bare komme op og spise. Stor vandskål. Så. Hvor er den anden flodhest denne da? Den var der. Dyrlæge. Hvorfor? Kom nu med noget mad til dem. Så engang erfaren forventer højere løn. Hvis du vælger at oplære en dyrlæge, vil det annullere dens eller andet. De mangler noget vand. Ja. Dyrlæge, dyrepasser. Vort. Det svin. Vandrør. Vandtro. Kan de hjælpe, måske? Vortesvin, det er også sådan nogle... Se engang her. Kan vi finde noget... Men hvorfor kommer de ikke og fylder op her? Nu får de der i hvert fald noget vand. Så har vi flodhestene. Og det her, det var en vandskål. Væk med det. Og der var masser i. Så de skal jo så bare tage sig sammen jo. De har jo de har mad. Mængde 20 kilo. Og de har vand nu. Dyrefast og opsynsmanden. Kom så. Det er de sidste. Kom nu, I to. Floddyr. Er den gået i stampe der, eller hvad? Nå, jeg vil sige tusind tak, fordi jeg kigger med. Jeg har en hund, der vil ud nu, så kan I passe godt på jer selv. Ses nok i morgen. Hygge hej.